girl, hey, girl.
I think we'll go ahead and get started. We are running late. This has been a very full Sunday. So I know people are going to be coming in a little later. Sorry, girls. I scared them into next week. Okay, I'm Judy Little, and welcome to the adult ed portion of our worship today. And we have with us for the third and final week, Tell Our Stories with Dr. Beth Boyens from Augustana, and she is going to introduce her guests that she has with us that are going to help. So, I'll turn you.
Yeah. Oh. There we go. Oh, it's really humming. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, and welcome. I brought with me today a couple of our finest Augustana students. Yes. Nora Winkler and Hannah Bashai, and I'll just let them tell you just introduce themselves quickly to you. Oh.
I'm Nora Winkler. I'm from Scotland, South Dakota, which is like an hour and a half southwest of here. I'm a senior this year at Augustana, majoring in government and English, and I have a minor in journalism.
Hi, I'm Hannah Bashai. I'm from Sioux Falls. And I'm a fifth-year student. I'm finishing up my ed degree, and I'm an English, religion, and secondary ed major, and I'll be student teaching in spring, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And both of these young women were in my Israeli and Palestinian literature class last fall, and so they will talk about that experience a bit, but first we thought we would do a few scenes for you from some of the plays that we read in that course. So, excuse me, we're going to start with a play that's called Kafia, Made in China, and it's written by a Palestinian playwright named Dalia Taha. She is a Brazilian, but also a Palestinian, so she spent time throughout her life, has spent time, she's quite young, throughout her life in both Brazil and Palestine. And I just want to read a little bit about what she has to say about playwriting in relation to life in Palestine. She says, "Theater is a permanent demonstration of the limits of power. It ridicules power and renders it impotent. It affirms again and again the potentiality of our agency, the agency that can only be exercised when being engaged fully with avoidance. I write for theater because, to me, in writing about ordinary people in extraordinary conditions, where guilt, responsibility, morality, ethics, empathy, love, and hatred are constantly threatened to collapse, it's only theater that could establish the threat of collapse as a collective experience, understanding the consequences and the stakes of such moments, and our responsibilities as humans and individuals in relation to them. I believe in theater because it doesn't make us happy." So this play is a collection of scenes, mostly between two people. And so the first one that Nora and Hannah will read for you is called Mangoes. And it's a father and mother waiting to identify potentially their son. And then the second piece they'll read for you is the title piece of the whole collection, Kafia, Made in China. And it's about a Belgian tourist visiting a shop in Palestine trying to purchase a kafia, which is the black and white kind of almost checkered scarf that's known throughout Palestine. So I'll turn it over to you two. Mangoes is the first scene.
Where is he?
In there.
Are you sure?
I haven't gone in yet.
Why not?
It's up to you.
What?
Go in.
You're his mother.
And you're his father.
There might still be hope.
Hope?
that it's not him?
Go in.
What if it is him?
It's not.
How do you know?
He doesn't throw stones.
So go in.
You go in.
I don't know.
You don't know what?
What he was wearing this morning.
Your green shirt.
My green shirt.
Yes.
You told me you couldn't find it.
I gave it to him.
Why?
Aren't you gonna go in?
And my black cardigan?
What about it?
Did you give that to him as well?
He doesn't have anything to wear.
And all the clothes we buy him.
Torn.
How?
They hit him.
Where?
At school.
And you believe him?
Are you going in?
I can't.
Why?
They say it's difficult
What?
to identify him.
But I told you
What he's wearing?
that he doesn't throw stones.
You think he's the only boy in town?
He's not the only boy in town
To what?
to throw stones.
I mean, wearing a green shirt.
Aren't you going in?
No, you go.
You're his father.
What time is it?
5 o'clock.
Here?
5 o'clock. I've been here for 2 hours.
Here?
I was held up at check. No, sorry. Yes, here. sorry, guys.
I was held up at the checkpoint.
His watch.
What about his watch?
It stopped
Stopped?
on 5 o'clock.
That's why
What?
every time I ask him for the time,
He says it's 5 o'clock.
why didn't you change the battery?
I didn't have time.
Why not?
I was getting my tooth filled.
What's wrong with it?
It hurts.
Why didn't you tell me?
It doesn't matter.
What does it matter?
My tooth.
I mean, why didn't you tell me to change the battery?
I told you.
I don't remember.
Go in.
Where?
See if his watch is stopped on 5.
But it is 5 o'clock.
It doesn't matter.
Haven't they told you?
Who?
The doctors.
What?
His left arm.
What about it?
It's missing.
He doesn't wear his watch on his left.
He doesn't?
He wears it on the right.
On the right?
Yes.
How many times have I told him to wear it on the right?
Leave the boy be.
Who wears their watch on the right?
You.
Me?
He copies you
I never noticed.
in everything.
So go in.
You go in.
You go.
He doesn't throw stones.
Didn't he come just to tell us?
Who?
The grocer.
He doesn't. Oh, sorry. That he wants his money?
That he saw him throwing stones.
Haven't you paid him yet?
What?
His money.
I paid him when he came.
So that's why he came.
Go in then.
You go in.
You know him better than I do.
We'll go in together.
You open the door. I'll look.
Which one?
The number is on the paper.
Number 2345.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Strange number.
Shall we?
He's never thrown a single stone.
Who taught him
Taught him what?
to throw stones?
It's that mischievous grocer's son.
The grocer's son?
The grocer's son.
Ali?
Next time his father comes, tell him off.
He won't come.
Tell him to keep his son away from ours.
Why would he come? I paid him the whole month's bill for 2 days ago.
He'll come.
I just told you I paid him.
Not everything.
What do you mean?
I bought some fruit yesterday by debt.
Fruit?
Yes, fruit.
Fruit when we're broke?
I was thinking of him,
The grocer?
our son.
What did you buy?
Oranges, bananas, and mangoes.
Mangoes?
He likes them.
Mangoes are expensive.
He likes mangoes.
So do I.
I left you some on the table this morning.
There weren't any.
There were 2.
None.
He probably took them
Who?
to school.
Son of a dog.
We'll go in and see now.
See what?
See if he has some mangoes.
He doesn't throw stones.
Maybe it was just the once.
Maybe.
The bananas were rotten.
This is the 3rd time he sells us rotten bananas.
Don't forget to tell him off.
The boy?
The grocer.
About his son?
About the bananas.
His fruits are garbage.
His son is always going around throwing stones.
And he's busy cheating people.
Some people just can't raise their kids.
He's his only child,
Like us.
just like us.
Poor guy. He'll lose that boy one day.
He'll blame us for not saying
Saying what?
that his son throws stones at the checkpoint.
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
Aren't you going in?
You,
What?
go in.
You're his father.
You're his mother.
He failed yesterday.
At what?
The history test.
Is that why he went to bed early?
He was afraid you'd know about it.
But he knew it by heart.
He got muddled.
Muddled.
Since that day, they came in and took you.
He still wets his bed even if he's 12?
And fails his history tests.
Not just history?
Everything.
Why didn't you tell me?
Aren't you going in?
You go in.
But he doesn't throw stones.
Are you going in or not?
Yesterday he swore to me
What?
that it wouldn't happen again.
Throwing stones?
No, wetting the bed.
Really?
The doctor said so too.
Really?
Yes, I'm telling the truth.
Isn't that great?
I forgot to tell you.
Then we need to celebrate.
Celebrate.
Yes, celebrate.
Ah, my little sweetheart. He deserves it. What shall we do for him?
I'm going to the grocers
To tell him off?
to buy our little boy mangoes.
This one again is called keffiyeh, made in China.
Excuse me, I'd like a keffiyeh.
A keffiyeh?
Yes, black and white.
Where are you from?
Belgium.
I'd guess that.
I've been told I could find a keffiyeh here.
Is it for yourself?
No, it's a gift.
I think I have something better.
I don't want a scarf.
I know, I don't want to sell you a scarf. Are you French?
No, Belgium.
You're well known for your scarves. How could I sell you a scarf?
Are you we are well known for our chips and waffles.
Not scarves?
No, that's the French.
But where do you come from?
From Belgium. From Belgium.
Ah, Belgium. But that's the same.
I could also ask in another shop.
You are not aware of the situation?
I don't understand.
Nobody wants a keffiyeh just now. Nobody's buying. We have an economic crisis.
Okay. Is there another shop?
Why are you in such a hurry?
Quite the contrary.
Do you know anything about economics?
I did a course before I left school.
What did you study?
I just told you I've dropped out.
Why?
I had other things to do.
But studying is free in your country.
There are more important things.
Did your parents not have the means to pay for your studies?
I wanted to travel, to see the world.
Alone?
Alone.
And who's the keffiyeh for?
What did you mean?
When?
When you questioned me about the economy.
Oh, yes. Are you familiar with the law of supply and demand?
Why?
There's no demand for keffiyehs.
Why?
That's all I know. Do you like my country?
Yes, it's very beautiful.
How long are you here for?
Until I've had enough of it.
Funny.
Usually I never spend more than 2 weeks in a country.
Don't you miss them?
Who?
Your parents.
I miss my sister. You didn't give me an answer.
And your father and your mother?
You didn't give me an answer.
To what question?
Do you or don't you have a keffiyeh?
It's black and white. You want?
Yes,
Do you know you've come to the best shop to buy a keffiyeh?
that's what I was told.
Mine aren't cheap imports from China. We have a secret factory, but of course, people told you that.
The story about the factory?
About the other one, it's the only one which produces keffiyehs.
I was simply told to come to you.
The other factory is a myth.
Now you've lost me.
There's only one secret factory, and that's ours.
It's secret?
Completely.
Can I visit it?
Impossible! There's a go-slow at the moment.
Because of supply and demand.
That's it. You're very clever.
Is it underground?
What?
The secret factory.
That's a secret.
I don't understand what China has to do with it.
Why are you in a hurry?
Me? In a hurry?
Let me explain everything to you step by step.
Why has the production stopped?
They closed it down. It's illegal.
Since when it closed?
A year.
But it's a secret.
That's what I said.
It hasn't produced anything for a year
It's come to a standstill since it went bankrupt.
after its closure?
No, it went bankrupt 3 years ago.
So where do you get your goods from?
What factory was I talking about?
The secret one.
There's another one.
You've lost me.
Where are you at?
Oh, sorry. The one they closed down?
No, another one.
You've lost me.
The goods are local, but they come from China.
And your goods, where do they come from?
You know.
What?
Every time I try to explain it, I never manage. Do you know Karl Marx?
I am not a communist.
Of course. Who is? I'm half and half.
What do you mean by half and half?
And you, what are you?
Vegan.
Vegan? What's that? A new party?
I don't do politics.
That's normal. In Germany, where you come from, everything's calm.
I'm not German.
I meant Bulgaria.
Belgium.
Ah, that's right, Belgium.
Yes.
My God, you're really Belgian?
Yes. There's only you?
I've heard so many good things about you Belgians.
For example.
That your method of government is so perfect that if we adopted it in our country, all our problems would be solved.
I don't do politics.
What use is it?
Belgium?
No, vegan.
Tell me.
Yes?
Is there a shop where I can find a map of the country?
I already told you.
I've forgotten.
You don't need a map. The country is so small.
Is there a shop that I can find what I'm looking for?
I'm going to give you something better than a keffiyeh.
I don't want a scarf.
Just a moment.
What's that?
Feel the fabric.
Sorry?
You will never find the same quality elsewhere.
You're sick.
But why are you putting me on the spot? This is worth far more than a keffiyeh.
I see now why you've asked me that question.
What question?
If I was traveling alone,
I don't see the connection.
they were right. The people who warned me about the Arabs when traveling alone.
Who warned you? Where are you going?
I'm leaving.
I think you haven't seen the video yet.
Aren't you ashamed?
The Egyptian girl dragged along by the soldiers.
What Egyptian girl?
The images are famous throughout the world.
I've never been to Egypt.
Don't you follow the news?
I don't do politics.
Wait, I'll show you the photo. I'm selling 50 of them every day. It's a hit.
But what is that?
A demonstrator stripped bare by the soldiers.
My God,
She's a symbol.
a tragedy.
Do you see this box?
What about it?
A theater ordered 10 of these.
Do you have a theater?
First, they wanted keffiyehs, but instead they took 10 blue bras. Not bad, eh?
I didn't know you had a theater.
You should take one.
I want a keffiyeh.
This is better than a keffiyeh. I'll do you a good price because you're English.
Belgium.
Belgium, yes, that's true.
Somebody asked me if I could get them a keffiyeh.
If you buy 3, I'll give you 1 free.
3 keffiyehs?
3 blue bras.
I don't want 3.
As you wish. You only need to take 1. I'm not going to force you.
Where can I find another shop?
I have other colors if you want, but blue's the fashion.
I want a keffiyeh.
You're not convinced?
I sympathize. That's all.
Did you not see what they did to that girl?
No.
They smashed her chest.
Who did?
The soldiers, 50 of them kicking her.
Why did they smash her chest?
Their shoes are made of iron. Did you know that?
My God.
Shoes made for soldiers who have to walk in the desert, made of iron.
Did they hit her?
They dragged her through the streets.
Crikey.
Soldiers have iron shoes, or did I tell you that already?
Yes, for the desert.
Iron for the desert. Sorry, I got lost. He kicked her in the chest with his iron shoes.
Jesus.
He broke her ribs.
But what does the blue bra have to do with it?
She was wearing a blue bra.
When they kicked her?
Wait a minute, I'll show you the video.
What video?
On YouTube. Let me open it.
YouTube?
You'll see.
No, I don't want to see.
Why? Are you under 18?
20.
Then you can watch it. Under 18, it's forbidden.
I don't want to see it.
Why? You must see it. I can't describe every detail.
I can't stand violent scenes.
You can't stand violent scenes?
No,
There's another video, a light version. You won't see the scene in close-up.
I don't want to see it.
You don't want to?
No, don't open it.
I have another one, an interview with the girl at the hospital.
I don't want to see any of them.
You don't want to see the bruises? Do you know what?
What?
The video for over 18 is worse.
I need to go.
I've kept you, sorry.
It's not a problem.
Okay, do you want one? Or 3 with 1 free?
I'm going to go shop to another shop for a keffiyeh.
You don't want a blue bra?
No,
Why? I sell 100 of them every day.
I don't do politics.
So yeah, you hear the playwright right using humor to address things that aren't humorous, really at all. You know, the scene of the parents trying to decide who's going to go in to identify their son, right? And they're being convinced that it can't be him because he doesn't throw stones, right? And then this one, you know, the Belgian girl is, I think, like so many of us, right, where we go into a place until we get tired of it, and we have the luxury of leaving, and we have the privilege of not doing politics, and not paying attention, not watching the scene. And so those are the kinds of things that we talked about in relation to that play. The second bit that we are going to do is from a play called The Zionists. And this is written by Zohar Tirish Polk, who is a Hebrew playwright. And I'm going to say a little bit about what she says about her, or actually about what somebody else says about her play, and then a quote from her too. So Tirish Polk, a New York-based Israeli playwright who was born in Brazil. Oh, I was wrong about that other The previous one was not born in Brazil. That was my fault. To Israeli parents, has seen her share of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. She has lived through wars, intifadas, demonstrations, peace agreements, and was even in attendance at the rally where former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated. When asked why she writes plays, she responded, "I want to pose and explore complicated questions about Israel, Palestine, and the Middle East. I try to inspire my audiences to see, think, hear, feel, experience the region and its history in more complex, multi-layered, and sophisticated ways. I'm also interested in the ways the outside is a reflection of our inner lives, and if that's true, I'm curious about the Middle East of our lives. How do we deal with the war-torn regions in ourselves, in our relationships?" So this play features 3 generations of Jewish women. Sonia, her scenes take place in 1935, and so just as the Nazi regime is taking over Poland, and then her daughter Sheila, who grows up in Palestine, and then her daughter, Dory, who lives in New York and is trying to, she moves to New York by the end of the play, but also lives in Palestine. And all 3 of these women are sort of wrestling with what does it mean to be Jewish, and how has the Zionist movement affected our Jewishness and our relationship with our Palestinian neighbors. So the play opens with Sonia, the oldest of these 3 generations. It's winter of 1935, a small town in Poland, and she's writing a letter to her grandmother. She writes, "My good Taha, I'm writing to you to show you my reasoning for leaving Poland. Please let me try. Recently, I came across a definition of what it means to be a Jew. I know, you would say, what sort of thing is this? A Jew is a Jew. A Jew is born to a Jewish mother, and that is all. And I'm sure Reb Zaltzman would say, a Jew is a boy who has been circumcised and a daughter who grew up in a Jewish kosher home. But this is the definition I found, Tata. A Jew, a person belonging to a worldwide group claiming descent from Jacob and connected by cultural or religious ties. I found this too, a Zionist, a person belonging to a group seeking to reestablish a Jewish homeland in Eretz Israel, currently Palestine. The word Zionist comes from the word Zion, which is another word for our beloved Jerusalem, which is another way of saying Israel, which was also named Jacob. Therefore, my good Tata, in my mind, the way I see it, being a Jew means one must also be a Zionist. It is the same thing. Do you follow? I know you'll say this is all bullocks, that the Shamils from them socialists are trying to sell girls like you, and that we shouldn't even think to go to Eretz Yisrael before the Messiah comes. What if the Messiah has come, Tata? What if he was a man, flawed but visionary just the same? And what if he preached something like our prophets? What if it's time to go home, Tata? Home. Nora and Hannah will be performing a scene. Actually, I'm in this one too, aren't I? With, where are we at? Sheila. Thank you. I forgot I have the big one here. With Dory, the youngest, trying to kind of come to terms with some of this as well.
Do you want me to start? Okay.
So it's 2007, and they're in Jerusalem. Yeah.
All I'm saying is that if I hear one more person bring up the Holocaust as an excuse, I'll explode. That's all.
It's not an excuse. It happened.
Exactly. Happened. Past tense, it's over. Did you hear about Berg's book, The Holocaust is Over, We Must Rise from Its Ashes?
Well, some people say that a trauma like that would take decades.
It's been decades. It's time they put it...
Centuries to heal.
Sorry, I don't have centuries. I want to live my life.
I see your point. I understand.
the Holocaust this, the Holocaust that, mass speak. I don't give you the right to be an animal. It doesn't give you a right to be an animal because 60 years ago you were persecuted.
We're still being persecuted. You know how many people want to kill us?
Yes, idiot, I know.
Hey, watch your mouth.
I just said I happen to know. I was at my own brother's funeral.
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about Iran, Syria, and you know.
And if one more person brings up Iran and Syria and then the Holocaust, I'll scream.
Maybe you just need to scream.
No, it's sickening. This pairing, sickening. I can't take it.
That's because you don't know the real deal, and those on the inside know what's going on. And if you actually knew, you wouldn't be talking like this. You're scared, really scared.
I don't want to know. This is BS politicians make up so they can get reelected. That's all.
Easy for you to say. It's not your job to keep this country safe.
Shh, your mother is coming. No more politics. And then another scene between Dory and her husband, and Dory is experiencing nightmares.
Dan,
Yes,
are you asleep?
not anymore.
Sometimes I have nightmares about World War II.
Did you have one now?
No,
So why did you wake me up?
because I'm scared I will.
If you do, you can wake me up.
Okay. Dan,
What?
I really don't want to have one though, and sometimes I can feel one coming.
Dory, it's 2007. Nothing bad will happen to you.
Once when I was in high school, I dreamed that Goebbels or Goebbels or Gobbles, whatever his name was,
Yes?
spoke to me, and he said that the war isn't over. And I told him he was dead, but he said he wasn't really, and nothing really ended, not the war, not the camps, and not the Nazis.
It was a dream.
I told him the war is over and that he's dead, but he didn't care. In my dream, he was fat and had a cigar, and recently I saw a picture and he was skinny and ugly.
See, it was a dream. It's over, Dor. Really, it's over.
Sometimes when I feel a nightmare coming,
I'm here, Dory. I'll protect you.
when they come,
The nightmares?
the Nazis,
Who?
the Arabs,
Who?
whoever is coming.
No one is coming.
But the other day on TV, I did see someone who looks like the real Goebbels or Gobbles or Gerbils or whatever his name was. Then I thought, what if they were among us, just walking down the street, like here? Sometimes when I feel a nightmare coming, I open my eyes and tell myself all the horrible things I know happened. All of them, the trains and the gas stoves and the Mauselmen and the no food and the children and the shots and the mass graves and the...
Okay,
So then I don't have to dream about it.
that's one strategy.
Do you ever dream about the Holocaust?
No. All the time.
I had a nightmare.
Sorry?
It was terrifying.
What? What? I'm up now.
I was somewhere in Herzliya.
There's nothing scary about Herlitzia other than the traffic.
Well, you know, Yigomir, but that's not what I dreamed about. I don't think I was in Herzliya in a house. I was trying to get back to Tel Aviv.
But the traffic was crazy.
And the people in the house knew I was there, but they were generous and let me stay. Hide, I mean.
Hide?
I was trying to gather my things and leave, but somehow it was taking a long time, and I knew it would be hard, no, almost impossible, to get to Tel Aviv because Tel Aviv was under siege.
Okay.
And I made up my mind I would walk to Tel Aviv. So I was trying to get ready and get water and get all my stuff organized.
Well, just that would take about 2,000 years.
And as I'm about to leave, this woman, this Knesset member, walks into the door and notices me. She knows something is not right, and the father is starting to get uncomfortable with me being there, but she keeps questioning him and me, and I can't leave. I can't get to Tel Aviv. It's been seized.
Wait, by who?
Armed militias.
Palestinians?
No,
Syrians?
no,
German?
no. Don't you see? It was us against them, and I couldn't get to Tel Aviv. It was under siege.
You mean
Yes,
us?
against us.
A civil war. That's scary.
And then the play closes with Sheila, the middle generation, speaking at a bereaved families circle event. She says, "It's an honor to speak here at the Bereaved Families Circle event, to join you, Palestinian and Israeli, Jewish and Arab, bereaved mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, children and grandchildren. It took me a long time to understand that we are all bereaved. I realized that if I could find the courage to join this circle, maybe together we could transcend something, the pain, the perpetual pain. With a lot of help and loved ones, I was able to pick up a brush again and paint. I'm now working on finishing a painting I began with my son Asif before he was killed. It's based on this image, two anemones joined together in beauty and grief in this land. I wanted to share it with all of you. May we all keep standing, continue searching, keep trying. If we look hard, really hard, together. Much of the literature that is written by Hebrew people, Jewish people living in Israel, has that kind of goal, I guess, of trying to sort of figure out what does it mean to be this people in this place at this time, neighbors to Palestinians. I think it reinforces the idea that this is more about governments and power than it is about the people living in this place. And that a lot of them, as I think I shared with you the first week we were together, really just want to live their lives free of conflict and free of violence and all that's plaguing that area of the world right now. So I thought we would spend the rest of the time letting Hannah and Nora share with you a bit about their experience of thinking about these things, particularly last fall when we were sitting in class together, sort of watching the news unfold about the most recent conflict between Israel and Gaza, between the Israeli government and Hamas primarily. So I've brought a few questions, but I certainly also would love to have you all jump in with questions that you might have for them. Interestingly, as Hannah shared, one of her majors is religion. And as Nora shared, one of her majors is government. And as I told you last week, I tell students at the beginning of this course, this is not a religion class and it's not a government class, right? But these two students bring that kind of thinking, right, into the classroom, which is one of the things that's so great about teaching at a liberal arts school, is that sort of things always seem to connect and come together. So I wondered if you two might talk a bit about what you brought into this class based on those majors, or how this class felt different from things that you study in those majors. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I actually, right before I took this class in the fall, I was doing an independent study of Judaism for my world history requirement. And I came out of reading literature by Chaim Potok and looking at what it means to be Jewish and how their identity is rooted in the diaspora and the destruction of the first and second temple. And we did a deep dive into critiques around it, scholarly work, but then also internal wrestling with that identity and how diaspora largely informs this collective identity that tries to stay together. And then I was in Dr. Boynes' Israeli and Palestinian literature class that fall. And so it was a nice segue. I was grateful for the background that I had and some of the questions I was asking, what does it mean to have a homeland? What is the promised land? What is diaspora? And wrestling with these concepts that I never really had language for, but was considering, exile too. And I'm very grateful for the way Dr. Boynes framed the course, because it made me check some of my biases when I came in. I remember just not even knowing that I had a biased opinion towards one identity and one group of people, because I knew more about that group of people. I knew their history. And I was also coming out of a Judaism course. And then all of a sudden I did a little bit of like a 180 or 360 turn, and I could see the parallels, and I could see how there were far more similarities than differences. And then those questions I had about diaspora, exile, homeland, the promised land began to just vibrate. And I actually just am in the process of finishing up my English honors thesis on those topics of what it means to have a home and what is home. So those two courses back to back really kind of cracked open the world in terms of identity and in terms of how we interact with each other and how our stories and how our identities and our ties to people and land impact each other. And we can't isolate ourselves from each other. We are always impacting the larger whole of a community and of humanity, really. So,
Thank you, Hannah.
What was the question again?
How did your studies in government? Yeah.
Okay, I thought. So, unlike Hannah, I did not have any background when I went into this class. I didn't even know that it was about Israel and Palestinian literature, if we're being honest. I saw that this class was taught by Dr. Boyens, and it satisfied one of my major requirements, and I said, yeah, I'll sign up for it, sounds good. So I went in there completely oblivious to what was happening. I didn't even know there was really a conflict happening in Israel and Palestine. And so I had the unique approach of seeing it from both sides for the entirety of my understanding of it. And even the first month of the class really got to understand both sides, both the diaspora and even the Israeli side of it after like World War II. Yeah, looking for a place to live after they'd been kicked out of basically all of Europe. And I have always been able to put humanity next to the stories that were being told, thanks to Dr. Boyens. And so when the bombing happened for the first time, that's when I think a lot of the other government majors started talking about it as well in my government classes, and it was less humanitarian focused in those classes and more politically focused, this side against this side, this government against this government, terrorism, Netanyahu, just no humanity brought forth to the table at all. And I remember even one of my fellow government majors coming into class, and before class she was just talking about how she had called a military member that she knows who's stationed at West Bank, and she was just saying just blatantly false information to the rest of the class, and nobody was checking her on it. And she wasn't thinking about either side, she was just thinking about one identity versus the other identity. And so it was interesting to see the differences in how this conflict was being approached within the two classes. And seeing the humanity being able to attach stories to it instead of just geopolitical identities.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me right into my next question, and maybe in some ways you've addressed it, Nora. But how did the conflict that emerged that fall affect the way that you approached the literature in the course, and vice versa? Like, how did studying the literature affect the way that you sort of listened to the news or digested the news, or what you were seeing on social media, those kinds of things?
Once you study literature, I always feel that literature is the humanity of the world, or really anything in the liberal arts is the humanity of the world. And so hearing the stories first, being able to attach identities, attach stories, I don't think of it as, oh, just this Palestinian member was killed. It's more of like, that mother and father just lost their son, and they are now going to identify the body. And it's not as simple as just another mindless number. Like, you're unable to just glaze past the news if you're thinking about the people who are actually attached to it. And so that was always something that I was thinking about, and more than that, I'd never felt like I was able to pass judgment onto either identity or either conflict because of all the background that I'd had. And also as a journalism major, looking at the news, I was getting frustrated by how simple and how blatant it was just being put out there, like, oh, this is just a conflict, it's been happening, no biggie, but you should probably know about it. And it's like, well, no, but you should know like everything about it. This goes back 200 years. This isn't just in the past 2 decades. And then also for like the student newspaper, I was assigned a story to talk about the conflict between Israel and Palestine, what was happening in Gaza. And so I made sure that I was
representing all sides of the story because it was probably one of the hardest stories I've ever taken. I was given the story, I didn't even take it.
She was like, no, I don't want it.
Yeah, really, I was scared. And so since this is such a big topic, I wanted to make sure that we were representing all sides of it. I talked to our campus pastor, I talked to Dr. Boyens, I talked to our international relations government professor. I talked to another government or religion professor, and each one of them made sure to say, this is not just a political issue, this is also a religious issue. And this isn't just religious, there's also the geopolitical aspects of it. And even our campus minister had traveled to Jerusalem. She had just taken off a sabbatical, and so she had just come back from Jerusalem, and it was like, I kind of joked that it was like having a therapy session with her. And then even going to find other articles to give the backgrounding, it's like, I was reading some of the articles, USA Today, New York Times, and it's just so one-sided. And so I was like, people are going to be looking at this article and they're going to be following the links to these biased news sources. It was all scary. It was all scary to write because I wanted to make sure that everything was represented accurately. And I think the background that I had with Dr. Boyens' class allowed me to write an article that people could actually benefit from and not just see one side of it.
Thanks,
there I
Nora.
rest.
You did a great job. Yeah.
Yeah, bouncing off of that, kind of thinking about like media too. I feel like before the conflict broke out, like when we were in the class, I was kind of taking an approach to this whole side of history as kind of like a textbook thing. It was like, oh, this is in the history books. This is not alive right now. It's something that is stale, which was, of course, wrong. But it felt so real when it became part of our current events, I would say. And having the background of the class gave me the historical context, gave me the humanitarian lens, gave me their stories, which I think is essential, but also showed that these conflicts are not black and white. I also, that January, I think, sometime I went to Ireland to study abroad for a month to look at the conflict between Ireland and Northern Ireland, Catholics and Protestants. And we were talking about discourse, and that too is a kind of like religious, political conflict rooted in identity. And so there were some crossovers there, and I was already beginning to understand how those conflicts are not black and white. This course was the same way, and then having it be so prevalent was really necessary. And I remember talking to some of my classmates who didn't take a class like this and hearing how they felt the need to pick a side. They felt a need to make this polarized, which is very common. I think it's easier to pick a side than sit in the middle and wrestle with those complexities. But I've heard things like the history doesn't matter, which reminds me of the play we read too. Like, can we just stop talking about the Holocaust? Can we just forget the past? But the past is so integrated into the stories of our present, and we live both in the past and in those memories and those stories that came before us and in the present moment, and having that context is essential. And knowing too how little, I guess, we all know really about those experiences. And so, and good on Nora for taking on the task of wrestling with all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to turn it over to you all if you have any questions for Hannah or Nora or me. I think we have maybe a few minutes yet. Judy?
Yeah. My question, you don't need to bring it up, but you can reiterate.
Yep.
Is there a way that we could get a copy of your editorial or your...
Oh, yeah, for sure. If you visit augiemeir.news, and then you go to the little search bar and you type in Gaza or Nora Winkler or Israel, the story will pop up.
But I can also share, probably.
Yeah, that's got that
Yep.
too.
Go ahead, Susie. Oh, I'll just repeat your question.
Did the class allow you or encourage you to speak to some students, international students on campus
Susie's wondering if you had discussions with international students about this topic, and if the class, we had a couple international students in the class, right? We had one from India and one from Ghana. So they brought their perspectives of both living in countries that had experienced occupation, which I thought was really interesting to have that perspective. Anything else come to mind? No.
I know for the article I did not, because we wanted to take it from as much of a informed approach as we could. We didn't want to get too far into the subjectivity of it all. And I also don't know if we have any Israeli or Palestinian students on
I don't
campus.
know that we do right now either.
Yes, but we did hear from, like Beth said, our international students in the class about it.
Did you get some feedback about your article?
I did, but it was nothing but positivity and nothing but people saying that they actually didn't realize how deep this conflict was, and that they were actually lost in the whole, like what was on the news and what was happening, and that they understood more from having read my article.
Good, Jane.
Did the class in general make you more aware that there are two sides and what we bring with our understanding and our background? And does it make it easier to talk to people and kind of challenge what they're saying when it's so out there and wrong and one-sided? Can you repeat that?
Sure. Did the class help you see that that it's more two-sided than we might realize, and does it help you talk with people and challenge sort of false premises, false information?
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of interesting conversations with some of my friends who didn't have the background, and then one of my friends who took this class like 2 years before me too, and you could tell who took the class, I guess, and who didn't based on the conversations and who maybe was more aware. But that, of course, didn't people will still have who will still choose to maybe pick one side over the other. And again, when it comes to like a humanitarian crisis, we often say, okay, this is one group that really needs a lot of help, so we're going to put our energy into there. It obviously is still two-sided, but I understand like why people might swing one way or the other. But I remember like with one of my friends who was kind of arguing with me about how the history didn't necessarily matter. A lot of like the news that she was receiving was like on social media, and I didn't know how to take that. I think social media can be very helpful to kind of bring humanity to the forefront, but it can also take it away at the same time. You see live footage, you see real events, maybe two at the same time. And I do remember though the sense of helplessness that kind of came out of that for some people, the need to do something and then feeling like they couldn't do anything at all. And that was hard to, I think, watch with some of my classmates. And it came out of like feeling guilty too, feeling like they had some role in that, and I think that also comes out of like our history of colonization. And so there again, our identities begin to clash, our histories begin to clash, they talk to each other, and it becomes layered, and what motivates us to choose the sides that we do or act in the way that we do sometimes comes out of our own fear and our own guilt. And I had to think about that. I also had to, I don't know if that really answered your question, but that was something that I, remember, I suppose. It was very interesting being able to have those conversations, and I do feel like the class equipped me to have those conversations and sit in the middle, which was sometimes annoying for other people. I understand that, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, sorry, just to answer your question, I'll do it quick. I'll make it quick. I saw the other hands. It did make it easier to have those conversations, but easier with the people who wanted to listen. So, like, I found that a lot of the government majors didn't want to listen. But like the aunts that I live with, they did want to listen. My parents and the older adults that are in my life wanted to listen and wanted to understand more. Rather than, I mean, there were some of my friends who also did want to hear the history and ended up being enlightened by the conversation. But it's more of whether or not you're willing to hear that there's wrongdoing on both sides and humanity on both sides. And it's not just this or that there can exist a space in the middle.
I'm going to take that.
Does this class and the feeling of there's right on both sides extend to some of the other major conflicts around the world?
That is a great question. Yes. The short answer, yes. There's always wrongdoing and right doing on every side, and I don't believe that I don't think anything is ever black and white in my book. And kind of what we were talking about earlier in the China Kafia Made in China play, where the one girl's like, I don't do politics, where that's like a luxury that you don't do it until it's right in front of your face and you don't have any choice but to do politics. That is a reality for the people in Gaza. That is a reality for the people in Israel. That's a reality for people in Ukraine and Russia, and that is also a reality right here in America. And talking about people who want to be like, I just turn off the TV. It's not that simple, and nothing gets better if you aren't equipped with the knowledge of what has been done as well. I don't know if that answers the question at the end of it, but whew.
That was good.
What about World War II?
Great question. You're full of great questions today. A question for maybe another time. I think I have to digest.
What about World War II? He said, yeah, Christy. Okay, I'm going to get my exercise for the day.
Often the discussion becomes about sides, but I was very thankful to hear that your consideration of the bereaved parents circle, friends of ours, really look at it differently. And I'm wondering if that brought you as well, or if you had discussions about the sides might be one side being humanity and the commonalities there and the experiences that both are experiencing.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of speaking to what Dr. Boyan said at the beginning too, how I've chosen to view it, whether or not this is right or wrong, it's definitely still more complicated than how I probably perceive it, but it definitely feels like there's the political side and there's the humanitarian side, and I saw that in the stories. I saw that in the shared grief and the shared love for land, and they echo back and forth, and that was the part I loved the most about reading the literature side by side. I all of a sudden just took a step back and I was like, they're the same. They're not the same, but they're the same. And I saw myself in those stories too. And then I was like, wait a minute. And all of a sudden, yes, what happened on October 7th brought it closer. But reading the literature brought it closer too. And it was right in front of me. And I have family from Egypt. And I have a family member who is long gone, but he was enlisted in the army during the 1948, the creation of the state of Israel and the Nakba. And I was wrestling with that at the same time because it was real in my own family and it was a part of my own story, but I did not understand it. And that's where some of the biases came from. That's where some of the conflict is. And even though I'd never been to that place, I could hear my own identity echoing in those stories as well. And I will be wrestling with that for my whole life. I still don't know, but at least it gave me a space to begin to see a bigger picture of how, yes, we are far more alike than we are different. We are different, and we need to celebrate those differences, but at the end of the day, we all love and we all grieve. So.
Yeah, end it there. Yeah. Thank you, Hannah and Nora. Thank you for listening to these stories. And I encourage you to keep looking for ways to engage in the stories, and I'm happy to recommend things if you'd like. But thank you for joining me. Yeah.
And we wish to thank Dr. Boyens and especially the students this morning. And also, up here on this stool are the poems that we ran out of last week. So please be sure, and I think she referenced them, you know, she saw herself in them. If you read it and thought, yeah, I really want a copy, they're right up here. So thank you very much, and look for her article. We'll try to get that linked up. So thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you, Judy.